As a boy, Nikolai liked nothing better than to wander in the woods and over the mountains near his home. His little friends did not understand or share his boundless enthusiasm for trees, streams, birds and their nests, sunshine, clouds, and stormy skies. Nor did they enjoy what they considered the hard work connected with Nikolai's many boyhood inventions. He was constantly engaged in experiments that often failed, a fact which made them all the more fascinating. In reviewing his life in later years, he could look back upon these many lines of investigation, which he had started as a boy, and see how they led directly to some of his major inventions. As he grew to maturity, he displayed certain characteristics which might have revealed his Venusian origin, had they been understood. His hands were unusually long, particularly his thumbs, and were extremely sensitive, carrying strong, clean, etheric currents. Inasmuch as he was clairvoyant, he could easily see the murky gray astral matter that exudes from the hands of the ordinary person, an effluvia of filth so sticky that it will adhere to the etheric substance of another person, even an individual occupying a body of high vibrations. For this reason, Tesla always dreaded shaking hands. He tried to avoid such contacts even at the cost of being thought inconsiderate or impolite. On occasion, when it was absolutely necessary for him to shake hands with certain visitors in his New York office, he escaped at the earliest possible moment to his private washroom, where he thoroughly washed his hands, drying them on a clean towel which was handed to him by his secretary and used only once. He had the deep-set, piercing eyes of the initiate, clear blue in color. He also breathed correctly, something an earth person seldom achieves. This was a natural faculty, for as a small child he discovered that by breathing deeply he was overcome by a feeling of lightness in his body. He felt so weightless that he concluded he would be able to fly if he developed the will to do so. It is said that he did not know he was unusual in this respect while he was still a child. Tesla could leave his body at will when he grew older. He always lived in hotels, and his orders were that he was never to be disturbed in his locked room. Tesla used projected consciousness, as do all initiates, although this is not to be confused with the type of astral projection practiced by the average person. The initiate uses many types of etheric energies freely and in a manner which is always spiritually correct. The ordinary individual does not have the ability to utilize these energies or even to contact them, and therefore easily falls into the dangerous practice of using astral or lower mental forces. This leads to the next step on the left-hand path, the state of trance mediumship. When Tesla was a small boy and found that his rhythmic breathing gave him a feeling that he could fly, he quite naturally and normally began to practice levitation. In this is a profound lesson for all of us, and it is the same lesson that Jesus stressed. Jesus warned us that we should not accept appearances if those appearances might prove limiting to us. We are always imitating that which we see about us. We see people growing old, so we grow old. If everyone thought of growing younger, and youth began to manifest all about us, we would grow younger in appearance as a matter of course. We see people walking, so we walk. Young Nikolai saw people walking, but he knew in his heart that it was a cumbersome and laborious method, so he pondered over it and got the feeling that he could fly. Then he followed his own inner feelings, not the example set by appearances all about him. He rose from the earth, levitated, and moved through space freely. It might have startled unsuspecting New Yorkers to see Tesla take off like his companion, the white dove, and fly over the city. But those who understand levitation and use it can also throw a cloak of invisibility about themselves. People jumped to strange conclusions about what they thought were the eccentricities of a great scientist. Another great one by the name of Jesus walked on water, and the curious are still talking about it today. Tesla well knew that it was the better part of wisdom to remain invisible when he had his feet off the ground, so to speak. Some of his close associates knew that he could levitate and respected the confidence. It might be well to underscore a point here. The person who levitates by using his Christ principle to do so must have a purpose behind his action, and it must be a purpose which is in some way furthering the divine plan. It is not spiritually permissible to levitate merely as a form of entertainment for oneself or for others. Levitation is correctly used only if one is definitely going somewhere for a definite reason in the service of humanity. The average individual moves according to his own whim and pleasure, and usually to satisfy some personal objective which is often unnecessary. The average person moves about because of restlessness and an inherent inability to work according to any plan, let alone the divine plan. The limitations of walking have offered certain advantages in the past. Transportation was so difficult that people tended to remain quiet as much as possible, or if they did go on a walking journey, they often utilized the time to commune with nature or their fellow man. But the advent of the automobile, bus, plane, and train has introduced a method of transportation which adds only noise, confusion, and chaos to the general picture, and which constantly exposes the emotional body to jarring impacts of a most distressing sort. When Nikolai was 5 years of age, he designed and installed a water wheel across a mountain brook near his home in Simja. He utilized a disc cut from a tree trunk by lumber workers, some small branches, sticks, and rocks. The device was a wonderful success from the standpoint of the young inventor. It was a bit crude, but it rotated. He had used the methods of antiquity in designing his model, and it was only much later that he discovered that water wheels have paddles, but his wheel operated without paddles. This water wheel was his first demonstration of a lesson he never forgot: to utilize free energy, which was being constantly and freely replaced by nature. Later, perhaps, as a direct result of this experiment as a 5-year-old boy, he developed the smooth disc turbine. Later, too, he carried his experiments in utilizing the free energy of nature into the atmosphere, and there he found that electricity in unlimited abundance would give him unlimited power, free energy that would carry mankind itself to freedom from the great curse of grueling labor. This was Tesla's magnificent concept that dominated his every thought as an inventor: free energy for a free world. It was a concept that carried him to the heights of cosmic fellowship, and the one mighty flame of inspiration which he set before his disciples as an eternal beacon: free energy to make and to keep the people free. When he was 9 years old, he designed his first motor. It was made from tiny pieces of wood and shaped somewhat like a windmill, but it was not powered by the wind. It was powered by June bugs, flying around and round, trying to detach their feet from the glue which held them fast to their duties. An incident took place at this time which clearly indicated the clean and wholesome trend of Tesla's thinking. He used June bugs because he needed to somehow capture power from the air, although the bugs might have been happier had they not been drafted for this service. But Nikolai used bugs just as a plowman would use horses. However, a little companion came in to observe the motor. He spied a reserve supply of June bugs which Nikolai had placed in a small jar, and the child grabbed a handful of the bugs and ate them. Nikolai was so sickened by the event that he set the remaining bugs free and never again utilized bug power. This was his first direct step toward capturing power from the air without enslavement of animals or human labor.